Hello, I'm Richard Hooper and this is SAT TV Week. Now I'm pleased to be joined by Tony Radford of Advantech Wireless. Tony, thank you for joining me today. Now it's been a busy 18 months for the company. Lots of things going on. Give me a brief description.
Brief description. I'm not good for brief, but let me say, yes, it's been very busy. You know that Baylin Technologies, a Toronto-based company, acquired the the RF business from the founders of Advantech back in January of last year. I came on board shortly after the acquisition to become part of the new team. We had to start the process of separating two businesses, the modem and baseband products that stayed with the founders and all the RF products that came with Baylin. And then a few months after that, they made the Alga acquisition, a competing company. So the mission became a little bit, complicated by the fact that now we, in addition to pulling the other assets away, we had to, meld the two competing brands together, come up with one symbiotic operation, do product consolidation, and move the factory into a new building. So it was quite a.
So you say about moving the factory, but how difficult was that?
Well, an operation like ours, RF manufacturing, is probably about as hard as it gets. I mean, there are a lot of products. We have our own inherent machine shops, a dozen CNC machines, in addition to acres of benches and test equipment and tuning stations and what have you that's associated with microwave amplifier manufacturing. So we had to pull the equipment out of a factory that had been in existence for, I believe, about 20 years and move it into to the new factory, which fortunately, as part of the Alga acquisition, came about 60,000 square feet of a very modern facility. They had enough room for us to move the Advantech lines into the Alga lines, and consequently, we ended up with a 60,000 square foot factory with about 200 people, the combined head counts. Very impressive, about 15,000 square feet of office space that had to be built out, but fortunately the space was there. Anti-static flooring, CO2 distribution for cold plates, power, parking lot space. I mean, it was a phenomenal construction effort, but it all came together very well. So about the January of this year, we were able to get the dust settled and start moving along. Came out well.
So apart from the move and everything else, I'm sure the complementary products, how have you managed to combine those? How's that working?
That was very interesting as well. I've been in the industry for about 40 years. I've been in I guess you'd say solid state, product manufacturing for about the last 20. And so I've seen, different ways of doing things with respects to technologies, thermal management, power combining and things so. And I was captivated by the fact that the Alga technology was extremely different. It was considerably different than that of the Advantech technology, which presented some very good, side effects for us. Case in point, with the extreme differences in approaches to doing things like thermal management, power combining, even down to monitor and control, we were able to take the best of two different competing product lines and mash them into one, taking the best features of each. So as a result, we've got a fair amount of hybrid technology, initiatives going right now where we're taking the best elements of both companies, both product lines, and coming up with the best of all worlds, and particularly in the very high power area that Advantech is, I'll go so far as to say, famous for. We're really pushing the envelope on thousands of watts of power generation, thanks in part to some of the efficient combining technologies we've been able to pull out of Alga.
Now you've got an amazing reputation for amplifiers. What does that mean for the future moving forward?
Well, it means a lot, but for us, our roadmap is very well defined at this point. We have obviously some overlap between the Alga and the Advantech product lines, particularly in the lower part of the power spectrum, because Alga is a sort of a consolidation of going back to the WaveSat MyTech days of days of lore. So there's a very long history of great success, particularly in the medium to low power areas. Advantech, on the flip side, has always been known for thousands of watts. It's one of the few companies that have really pushed the envelope in very high power generation. So with the overlap on the lower power spectrum, we're taking the best of the best products, the most manufacturable, the most cost-effective to produce, the best feature sets, the easiest to stock materials, so we get the shortest lead times, and we're concentrating on that. On the high power side, as I mentioned earlier, we're taking combined technologies and coming up with hybrid concepts that will allow us to continue to flourish at the very high power level. Both companies had pulsed amplifiers for radar applications, though neither of them marketed, including Advantech, neither marketed those technologies very well. So one of the things I did when I first took over the sales organization for Advantech was to get my team to start turning over rocks, not in the classic SATCOM sector, but go looking at the research institutes and the radar integrators, and let's bring this radar technology, the pulsed amplifier technology, to the forefront, and really try to exploit that as an alternative market, an adjacent market that uses effectively the same technology to a large extent. So now we've started putting a big marketing thrust into, again, adjacent markets, troposcatter, radar, and that's happened largely as a culmination of the two business units.
Now, Tony, you've been in the industry a long time. You can see the change. You can see what's happening. What are the challenges moving forward?
Well, there's no secret that Ka band and eventually, I guess, Q and V band are going to become topics of, they're already topics of interest, but the technology has not really kept up with the appetite or at least what's going to be needed to be able to facilitate the LEOs and the MEOs and and going forward in the transition into newer technologies. So one of our major initiatives is we've got some very interesting combining technology, and when it comes to very high frequency, the devices are usually relatively small, in their individual power generation abilities. So how you combine these in a super efficient way, it really is the make or break in being able to achieve the kind of power levels we're trying to achieve. We're not really interested in doing a whole lot in the very low power area because there are a lot of folks that are already pretty successful in that mode, but we've got some stuff we're working on right now with the latest transistor sets that are going to take us into really high power at Ka band and eventually into the into the Q and V bands, partly because or at the benefit of the fact that Alga microwave was about 50% passives, about 50% amplifiers and RF technology, but their passives are one of their major successes, and they already have Q and V band capability, at least at the passive level. So we're incorporating that into our designs. So hopefully by about the first quarter of next year, we're going to be coming to market with some products and some technology that yet does not exist in our industry, going after the the big LEO, MEO, Ka band programs, and then of course to the higher frequencies, beyond that. And then, as I mentioned earlier, the radar technology I'm really excited about because it's a whole different game, and it allows a nice supplement to the SATCOM industry that isn't exactly growing by leaps and bounds in the core technology segment.
Well, interesting times. Look forward to an update in 6 months. Thanks, Tony.
My pleasure. Thank you.